Right, part 4 of the Camaro build. I'm going to get all the spot welds ground down that I showed you on the last one, get all the edges cleaned up, which brings me to another point I'm sure somebody's wondering, is why nothing was media blasted or stripped or acid dipped or anything like that before this point. This particular customer is going to handle that themselves. I am just making sure the edges that I have to attach new metal to are clean. And another thing I'm sure somebody spotted on the last one, when I was grinding the floor out, is that I don't run guards on my grinders, and I had a 6-inch wheel on a 4.5-inch grinder. That's my prerogative. Like I say, I can't recommend that anybody does that. A little disclaimer there, but I've been doing it for years, and that's just what I do. However, I do always wear a face shield, wear a dust mask, and I wear ear protection because all those years of grinding and whatnot when I was younger have now given me tinnitus, so I do actually try and take care of my ears and my face. So I'm going to get after grinding all these spot welds down, and I will check back in with you when I'm finished. I got all the edges cleaned up on the body. It's ready for the floor pan. I got to do a little bit to the floor pan before it goes in and gets welded. These pieces here are also on the car, and I said before, I'm not taking those out, so I'm going to drill the spot welds out on these, put some holes around the perimeter, and I'll get this slid up in there and start lining it up. Back with you shortly. All right, got all the holes drilled, got the holes punched in the sides and the ends, got the floor pan slid up inside. Like I say, there's not much to that. I didn't see much point in dragging on in the video about that, but what I do want to talk about is the ends, like the trunk floor and the toe boards. I've got everything clamped. I'm going to weld the center in. I'm going to leave the toe boards end loose. I'm going to leave the trunk floor end loose around the wheel wells, because when the trunk floor goes in, I'm going to need a little wiggle room in the wheel well area. So next little segment here is going to be on getting the toe boards fit. So let's get after that. As you can see, they are quite a bit larger than the area that we actually need to fix. So this will get trimmed down. Decide I'm going to run it up on these hard lines here, come across, because there's a whole lot of weird angles in here, and that's going to be the easiest place to weld and get smoothed up once they're in there. So let's jump over to the other side, take a look at it. All right, the passenger side, as you can see, is a whole lot less angles in here, but I don't know if you can see it on the camera as well. These angles are different than what the tunnel is. So I'm going to trim this one up high and then drop it down here, because I don't want to be in the middle of these beads. I'm trying to make them line up with those. And if I have to flex this a little bit here to match the tunnel, it's less of a big deal. All right, got a rough fit on the toe boards. And apparently I need to use my stand because my hand shakes a little bit like this. Anywho, I had to make a cut across the top of that, but I wanted to get everything screwed down in place and make sure the fit was good. So let's jump over and check out the passenger side. At the passenger side, you can see where it's going to get cut across the top and down the tunnel. And this is why I wanted to cut it the way I did. That'll pull in place just fine. I'll cover that here in a bit. All right, getting this front toe board fit and welded in. I just wanted to stop for a couple minutes just to show you what I'm doing. I say these, we used the screws before just to hold things together. That's holding the toe board, the floor pan, and that structure that's underneath together. They'll come out and get welded in. A couple more along the edges just to pull things together before we start welding. But I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a gap here, just the fitment. I'm going to take and cut that, move it over, pull it down to weld that up, smooth it up. This corner's also got a little bit of a gap in it. That, I'm just going to take the body hammer, tab it. The reason I use 2 hammers is because inevitably I'm going to miss with this one and put a nice dent in the brand new floor pan. So we don't want to do that. This edge over here, I left about a 1/2 inch under there. Like I said, that's underneath where you can't see it. I just did an overlap on that. I'll weld that, smooth it in. These are for the edge of the structure. When I get over here though, I'm going to take this on a die grinder and I'll cut that edge. I'll pull them together and butt weld them and then smooth up both sides so you can't see the seam. This is the wheel that I use. It's a thin wheel, it's 35 thousandths. Does a really nice job of doing thin cuts when you want to put two pieces of sheet metal together. Anywho, all right, let's get after it. I'll stop again when I get over here, kind of give you a little more rundown on that. All right, so we've got all this put back in there and smoothed up. I want to start on this section here. And when I cut this, I'm actually going to be hard to see from there. The grinder will actually run a little bit of it. So my goal is to have just a small gap in there that I can work them together. So let's see if we can make that happen. Alright, got all the finish work done on the toe boards. Also threw in the seat risers while I was up here. I say try to get everything smoothed up, looking good along the tunnel where you're going to be able to see it from the top and the bottom. So I'm going to jump underneath, show you what it did up there. Alright, Camaro up in the air. A little shot of the toe boards here from the outside. Looks a little more factory than the previous repair. I'm going to flip the camera around, give you a shot from underneath. From underneath where everything comes together here. See, no more big gap under the floor pan. Try and get it looking a little more acceptable. This part, the next part is going to be getting the trunk floor out, getting the rear subframe all prepped for that. So stay tuned. I will be back with you shortly.